Hey, you're watching Music 4 Miles, your go-to resource for all things guitar and music. Today we have the Hush C travel guitar on the channel. Now this is Donner's latest iteration of their acoustic travel guitar, and the cool unique thing about this one is it's classical. That's right, it has nylon strings. We're going to check out the build quality, do some sound samples, and I'm going to give you my honest feedback on this awesome travel guitar. Stick around. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Michael, this is Music 4 Miles. What we do here is I review gear that inspires you to play more. If that's something you're interested in, please hit the subscribe button and bell notification so you don't miss out on my future videos. And I do have some more Donner videos coming your way. All right, let's check out today's guitar. This is the Hush C from Donner. If you're returning subscribers, you may be familiar with Donner's Hush series. If not, let me fill you in. Now, Donner set out to create the most versatile travel guitar in existence. They did that with the original Donner Hush. Now, there's been quite a few models that have come out since then. You guys could check out my review of the Hush series up here. And now we're checking out the Hush C. Now, this is the classical version of the acoustic travel guitar. As with all of the Hush series, you are going to be getting a headless guitar. It is modular. You can take off the body supports, break it down into a much smaller size. That's right, it fits into this bag here, which you can put in the overhead carry bin on a plane, no problem. I've actually traveled with the Hush guitar multiple times as a carry-on and I've had zero issues. But most of all, this thing actually sounds super good. You can gig with it. So why don't we check out what's new with the Hush C? Let's go over its parts and specs. So let's start off with the body wood. Now there's not a whole lot of it here, but there is a good chunk of wood. You are going to have yourself a neck through guitar. That means there's no joint here. It is all one piece. And the wood that they're using here is Akome wood. I'm not super familiar with Akome wood. To me, it kind of looks like mahogany. It's very lightweight, and this guitar neck is solid. Something about a travel guitar is you do want a solid neck, and they do have carbon fiber rods reinforcing the neck on this model. So starting at the top here, we do have a 46mm nut width. So this is in spec with classical guitars. Those typically are a little bit wider than most other acoustics. We are getting like a more modern C-shaped neck. It is very smooth, very easy to play, and the entire guitar is in a nice satin finish. We do have some very nice frets, and each one of the frets has a rounded edge. That's going to be very comfortable on your playing hand. You're not going to be snagging on these frets or getting any scratches on your hands. And most of all, you don't have to worry about fret sprouting using these rounded edge frets. All right, let's talk about weight. This thing is super lightweight. It's only coming in around 4.5 pounds. This guitar does feature 20 frets all the way up here, and you have really easy access to the higher frets. Now finally, we do have an HPL fretboard with what looks like abalone inlays. Now moving down to the middle of the guitar, we do have a very nice truss rod adjustment wheel here, which is situated in a very, very easy spot to adjust, which I did when I got the guitar. Moving down, we do have this nice acoustic bridge that does have a piezo pickup system built into it. And it looks like we do have an extra little string tree here to help with some of the tension. Then moving on beyond that, we do have our tuners. If you're not familiar with how the Hush system works, this is where all of your tuning takes place. You can either use your fingers or you can use this magnetic tool here that pops out. It's a little Allen key that you simply put here, and it makes it much easier to tune the guitar under tension. Just remember to put it back, because I forgot a few times and actually lost it. All right, now moving up to the top of the guitar, we do have the Hush, and this is going to be called the HPS2 system. So this is the newer version. If you have the original Hush, there's a few differences here. This one does come with a built-in tuner, and you have a 2-band EQ. You can adjust your highs and your lows and your volume. Next to that, we do have our headphone in and our auxiliary in. So if you do want to jam to some music while you're practicing with headphones on, you can definitely do that. This system is powered by a single 9-volt battery. The cool thing about this too is it knows when you're using the guitar. So if you have your headphone jack plugged in or your instrument cable plugged in, it's going to start using the battery. If everything is unplugged from the guitar, it will reserve your battery life. Speaking of inputs, here is your 1/4-inch instrument in, very high quality jack, and that's the basics of the Hush C. There's a few things I want to mention here because I'm not typically a classical guitar player. Normally when I have any import guitar come into my studio, I replace the strings right away. However, this is the first time I've actually had a Donner guitar come in with name brand strings. These have Diodario strings on them. They're actually really high quality nylon strings. And you're gonna wanna make sure you stretch these bad boys out, let it settle. So throughout the first few days of you owning this guitar, just make sure you're tuning it up every single day. And I would recommend just pulling on the strings a little bit to stretch them out. It is the natural process with nylon strings. It takes a little longer to stretch, but just keep that in mind. Okay, so we went over the parts and specs of the guitar. Let's go over what comes in the box. That's a big part of this guitar is the travel features. As I showed earlier, here is the travel case for the guitar. It's extremely thin. It's about the size of a skateboard. The guitar does have a little fabric label up here with C for classical. If you're like me and have multiple versions of the Hush, when you're storing them, that lets you know which version you're pulling out. Like other models, this does have reflective piping on the zipper here, and it does have a weatherproof zipper, which should be water resistant if you're outside in the rain with this bag. It does have aluminum handles, and overall, it's a very, very high quality bag. So moving to the interior compartment, you are going to have a strap for the neck of the guitar and a strap that goes down at the bottom of the guitar, and you have some extra padding at the top and the bottom. This is a solid case. You should have zero worries about your guitar, especially since it's headless. That's the number one thing that breaks when you travel the guitar is the headstock. So, I mean, really, you could probably throw this thing off the building, it'll be fine. Now let's move into the accessories compartment. So there is going to be a top sleeve here. This is where all your accessories go. Speaking of accessories, this does come with a very nice pair of in-ear monitors. Not the cheap kind of headphones you get with typical guitars like this. It's actual pretty decent in-ears. You are going to get a 1/4 inch cable, so if you want to gig with this guitar or record with it, that should be no issue. Comes with a nice polishing cloth. All your tools, of course. So this is your tools for adjusting the truss rod, restringing the guitar. There's some guitar picks in here. I put the extra ear tips that came with the in-ear monitors. It also comes with a guitar strap. So again, if you're gigging with this, you could stand up with it, no problem. And there is 2 guitar strap buttons that come with the guitar. And this is going to be a shoulder strap for the case. So you are getting lots of goodies with this guitar, lots of case candy, and finally there is a pretty in-depth manual that comes with the guitar. Now when it comes to restringing this guitar, if you flip the guitar over, it does have this cool pad here. At first I thought that was just for leaning it against the wall and making sure that it wouldn't go anywhere. However, you could pull it back and see what is going on here. So this is going to be where your string ends go. You're gonna wanna make sure you tie a nice knot around the string on the end. You'll then pull it through the string holes here, all the way down to your tuners. You will then wind it, make sure you give it a couple winds on the tuner itself and tune the guitar up. Okay, so we went through the specs of the guitar, what comes in the box. Why don't we do a sound demo? Now, before we dive into the sound demo, you can go direct in with this guitar. However, I will be using a preamp and looper on this demo using the new APL from Donner. This is a multi-effects preamp and looper designed specifically for acoustic guitars. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do with this multi-effects pedal, but I wanted to point out that there is some impulse responses for specific acoustic models, which I'm not going to be using because I am demoing a classical guitar. But if you do have a cheaper acoustic electric, you can get Martin and Taylor, Gibson sounds out of this by using the impulse responses. Now it does also feature a plethora of effects. We do have a chorus, tremolo, phase, overdrive, echo, hall reverb, plate reverb, and delay and reverb. That's my favorite, delay and reverb. Now there's lots of controls on here. I'm not gonna go super in depth on this pedal because this is primarily a Hush C review. But if you do want a more detailed breakdown of the APL pedal, please leave a comment below and request that. All right, so why don't we plug this guitar in and see how it sounds. So let's start a loop here, okay? So I'm gonna turn my highs down just a little bit while I'm doing the rhythm. Really, really simple loop, but let's see if we can get some cool classical sounds going. All right, we got my rhythm sound going. I'm gonna adjust the levels real quick. gonna turn on some delay. So let's talk about price. How much is the Hush C? Well, right now on Donner's website, let me check. As of the end of June, early July 2025, we're looking at an MSRP of $455 for this guitar. It is on sale right now for $355, and I believe it's going to be going on a deeper sale for Prime Week. Just keep your eyes peeled. As with all things with Donner on Amazon, their instruments fluctuate in value and sales. Now, do I think this is worth $455? Well, yeah, the fact that this is one of the only travel classical guitars I've come across, and I can attest to the quality, craftsmanship, and build of this guitar, definitely is worth the money, especially if you can get it on sale. Thanks so much for watching. I would love to hear from you. What type of travel guitar are you interested in, and would you pick up the Hush C? Until next time, I'm Michael. Thanks so much for watching. See ya.